Hi food friends, it's Kevin.
And Ralph, me behind the camera.
And today we're going to make ourselves a pie. And it's now September and fall's setting in. And I had a thought that I'd maybe make a pumpkin pie, but you know what?
Too soon.
Too soon. All of a sudden the weather turned beautiful, and I said, I know I have a lot of fruit in the freezer that I've been saving throughout the summer, so let's use that up. So today we're going to make a berry, cherry, rhubarb pie. And this is just what I had in the freezer, frozen. I had some frozen.
Fresh. Frozen.
Yes, we bought them fresh, and we froze them. Blueberries, about 4 cups. These are Michigan cherries from the Traverse City area. I got about 2 cups of those, and I got a cup and a half still of my early summer rhubarb. So that's what's going to go into the pie. Kind of sweet, tart, red and blue. And what we're going to do first is get our crust mixed up. So I've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to put in a teaspoon of salt. And let's get it all mixed in here.
Michigan's known for its cherries.
Yes. And actually, well, you know, all these are from the state. The blueberries and the rhubarb actually from very close by.
Right over here in Croswell?
Yeah, and then the cherries, like I said, our neighbors brought that back from Traverse City area. So, okay, so we've got our salt and our flour kind of mixed up. I've got 2/3 of a cup of Crisco here. Now, people feel differently about what to use in terms of
making the perfect crust.
Exactly, and I have to tell you that pie crusts have been the bane of my existence for a long time. But
well, that's me off the hook.
So we just use by trial and error. But
you've been hearing different little tricks and secrets and things to make your pie crust better, so maybe you'll employ some of
and
those.
you know, it's like anything else. The more of something you make, the more proficient at it you become. But in terms of a shortening for pie crust, and I'm using a pastry blender here
to cut in the
shortening. Some people like to use butter, which of course you could, although butter doesn't make for a really buttery crust, doesn't make for a particularly flaky crust. Some people swear by lard, and I've used lard before, and lard makes a very flaky crust and a very flavorful crust, I think, but I don't have any lard on hand. But I always keep a little can of Crisco in the fridge, and it's mostly just for this kind of stuff. It's about all I use it for, but I still find it makes a very nice pie crust.
So you use lard mostly just for baking? I mean, Crisco.
Right.
But maybe you should start keeping some lard in the refrigerator and see how that works.
Yeah, I guess I should.
My mom used to keep lard in the fridge.
Did she?
Oh yeah, it was a year-round. I mean, she used it for beans, frijoles.
Oh, sure.
She used it for pies, for baking. So yeah, year-round she had that green package with the green and white label.
Armor.
I think so, yeah.
And I think actually lard is such that food goes in and out of vogue. A lot of magazines and articles I've seen lately feature lard.
Yeah, it's like a return to all the things of yesterday.
So here's what we've got our cut-in shortening and flour with a little bit of salt. Now what we have to do is we have to add some cold water to it. Anywhere between 5 or 6 tablespoons usually. By the way, the Crisco was cold. I had it in the fridge, and of course you can see I've got ice in here. So I'm going to put in a couple tablespoons of ice water, and we're going to take our fork, and basically we want just this dough to start to kind of come together. So this is 3. I'm digging the music, Ralph. What do we got?
We are listening to Les Paul and Mary Ford.
Oh, good stuff.
And it's it's real Americana, like a pie, but it's also a little exotic because you're mixing all these crazy things together. So it's their version of the album is called Brazil, and it's that classic song Brazil, as well as Caravan and a few other jazzier classics in there. So yeah, I don't know, just happened to have it on the hi-fi actually, but I think it, always seems to find a way to make it fit with what you're cooking.
Good pie making music.
Sure, what isn't?
Now, it's starting to feel like
a dough.
Yeah, I might need another tablespoon of water. I think I've got about 5 tablespoons in there so far. So let's do one more.
Can you tell people what exactly you're looking for in terms of the consistency?
You basically want it to start to stick together so that you don't have a lot of little crumbs.
And it's pulling away from the
bowl.
From the
See,
bowl.
as I stir it, it's not going to come into one big lump. We're going to put it like that.
Oh, not like when we were doing biscuits.
No, see, now it'll start
yeah.
to form together. So, because what we need to do is, you can see it's not sticking to the side of the bowl.
It's starting to pick up all the loose bits.
Exactly. And what I do here now is I'm going to sort of cut it, make 2 halves.
One for the top and one from the bottom?
Right. And we're going to put this in the refrigerator for about a half an hour or so and let it chill.
Do you need some wax paper for that?
Well, you can use wax paper. I find saran wrap works really well. So I'm going to make my 2 sort of patties.
Patty cakes.
One's a little bigger than the other, and that's because I'm making a deep dish kind of pie, and my bottom crust needs to be a little bit bigger than my top crust. So we're going to just wrap each one of these pieces up here.
And put them in the freezer.
And put them in the fridge.
I'm sorry, fridge.
For about a half an hour.
Not the
In the
freezer.
meantime, I'm going to turn the oven on to 400 degrees and get that ready. And we'll let our dough start chilling, and then we'll come back and we'll put together our filling. Blueberry, cherry, rhubarb pie. That's today's bacon up at the cottage.
Back
See you
in
in
a few.
few minutes. So our dough is still chilling out in the fridge, but I'm going to put together our filling. I like to have the filling ready so that when the dough is rolled out and it's in the pie plate, we can just dump our filling in and we're good to go. So here's our blueberries. You can see I tried to drain them as best I could. Still a little juicy. Again, all this was frozen, and so what happens is when stuff gets frozen, the cellular structure kind of gets broken, and so a lot of the natural liquid comes out. So now we're going to put in our cherries, and again I'm going to try to scoop out the cherries and leave the juice, although this cherry juice is out of this world.
You were dipping into it?
Yes. It's really good. So these are cherries, and these are sweet cherries. They're not the tart cherries, which they grow a lot of.
Maybe you can save that juice for, what's that drink that you like sometimes with whiskey?
Oh, like a whiskey sour?
Or brandy Alexander? Or isn't there some drink that requires cherry juice?
We'll put it to good use. And
Okay.
here's our rhubarb. So you've got the blueberries, which are sweet. You've got the cherries, which are nice and sweet. And, of course, the rhubarb is like opposite, negative sweet.
But it has its
very
own
tart.
What we like about, at least what I like about rhubarb, is it has its own distinct flavor. I remember chewing it as a child with some sugar on it, dipped in sugar.
So, and speaking of sugar, that's one of the things that we're going to add. I got about 2 cups of sugar here. And
It'll be sweet.
then I've got flour. Now, flour is going to help thicken all this up. I've got about a half a cup of flour here. I'm not putting in any real spices other than some cinnamon.
Real simple basics.
And just a little bit, maybe a teaspoon. Cinnamon gives sort of a nice warmth, I think, to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to get all these berries coated with the flour and the sugar and the cinnamon. And the flour will help, again, thicken so that the pie isn't too runny when it's baked. So this is good to go. We're going to just set this on the side.
I love the colors of it.
And isn't it pretty? And so we are going to roll out our pie dough. So here's my pat for my bottom crust here. And I've got flour on the board. And I've got little flour on my rolling pin. I use a rolling pin cover or sock, some people call it. I find that it really helps me anyways in terms of preventing sticking. So we're going to roll this crust out for the bottom of our pie pan.
Sounds like that pin needs some oiling.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe it's
I always
singing
find it
along.
hard to kind of get a perfect round, so mine has always looked sort of like Australia for some reason.
Oh yeah.
But okay, so here's our bottom crust. Now, of course, it's somewhat delicate, and what I'm going to try to do is lift it up. Oh, it's stuck. Okay. Well, let me get our friend the spatula here, and we'll try it from this side. Now I'm going to get under it. There we go. And I'm going to just sort of try to roll it up around our pin, like so, until we can get it all off. And then lay it
Oh, then you transfer it and roll it out
there.
over the.
exactly.
Oh, that's a nice little trick.
Now we lost a few little pieces, so we have to do what I call a patch job. And again, it's okay. We just want to fill in these areas. I've got some pie crust here. We want to fill in the areas that we've got. Yes, exactly. Sometimes I'll take a little water on my finger and essentially kind of glue these areas so that we don't get a lot of the filling leaking out. Okay, so there we go. So we've got our bottom crust in, roll out our top crust.
Did your mom bake a lot?
She
Pies?
did. My mom baked a lot of pies. My dad was still is a great lover of pies. Apple is his favorite. And I have to tell you that my mom made her own crust, but sometime, I think it was in the late 70s, Pillsbury came out with the ready crust in the refrigerated section. And she tried it, and she never made a pie crust again. And she was a great baker and a great believer in homemade everything. But
right.
I'll tell you, after she did that,
she didn't look back.
No, she never did. And there was always a couple in the freezer and one in the refrigerator.
So
she made pies a lot.
So would she make her own tops?
No, it comes with two pieces, a top and a bottom crust. And so yeah,
that's a step
so
saver.
she was a believer. Now, one thing I'm going to do before I roll out the top crust is our filling is in. I dot it with a little butter. This is about 2 tablespoons of butter that I just sort of chunked up. This butter will melt. It creates a fat which goes in with the flour, which helps to thicken. But of course, it also just gives this wonderful
flavor.
little buttery finish to our filling. So we're just going to do that. I want to make sure that we have enough flour on the board. Here.
Want me to add some?
Please. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get our top crust rolled out and put on top, and then we'll be right back and we'll get this baby in the oven, okay?
Can't wait.
Berry, cherry, rhubarb pie.
Coming at you.
Okay, my top crust is on. I've trimmed it a little bit. And what I like to do is I like to pinch the top crust and the bottom crust together when I have a fruit pie, and make a seal that way to sort of hold in some of the pie juices. And then what I do is I make a fluting with my thumb and index finger, kind of going around like that.
Fluting, you mean like a little indentation design?
Exactly. Some people can do these beautiful crust edges
By hand?
by hand, and it's really an art form, I think. This is about the extent of my talents.
Maybe you
So-
should use pinking shears.
Well,
I'm just kidding. Does anybody ever do that?
I don't know. I don't know if that would work, but there's our pie. Okay, now we do
Nice.
need, you said something about venting it, and you're right. And I'm going to try to put a little, I got a little piece of dough here, I got a little hole, and we're going to just,
Calling Dr. Petrosky.
we are going to do a little patching there. We put a little water,
Paging Dr. P.
and the pie doctor, and we'll do that. Now, we're going to put 4 here,
Splits.
and then I put one small one in between those 4,
Oh, that's a classic design.
and then
What goes in the middle?
I take a little chunk of the middle out altogether.
A little
Okay.
blowhole.
Yep. There's a piece of butter right there.
Is that what that is?
Yep.
That looks awesome.
And then this is something that I like to do just as,
A final step.
yeah. Some people brush it with egg white, which gives it a brownness and a nice shine. And I just like to take a very little bit of sugar and just
Does that
sprinkle it on
add to
top.
the browning of it, or
No,
to the
it doesn't.
flavor?
Yeah, it makes the crust, the top crust, a little sweeter. Now, what I've got here is, this is actually a pizza pan, and this is what I use for when I'm doing a single pie. Put a piece of foil down because,
Roll
one, I love my old oven, but it's not self-cleaning, so I try to prevent as many messes as possible.
And that's the kind of pie that would definitely have some spillage.
Exactly. So it's 400 degrees, and we're going to put her in 45 to 50 minutes or so, and we're going to keep an eye on that crust. So it's been about 50 minutes, and going to shut the oven off, and we're going to take this baby out.
How's it look?
It looks wonderful, but I'll let you decide.
Mmm.
So there it is.
Golden brown, the way it's supposed to
Golden
be.
brown. See, it's a little bubbling on top, but the venting prevented too much spill over. So I think we're good. Now, of course, it's going to need to cool off for a couple hours. But we've got blueberry, cherry, rhubarb pie.
Boy, does that look good.
Well, it is in the evening, and we finished our dinner. Pretty tasty one, if I do so say myself. Dishes are washed, and we are ready to top things off with a piece of this blueberry, cherry, rhubarb pie. So, to go with our coffee. So let's make a slice.
How's it cutting?
Well, it's cutting pretty nice. I like, you get a shot of the crust. See, that flakiness is what we want.
Oh yeah.
It's a juicy pie by the looks of it.
Oh yeah, it's juicy. Wow.
There we go.
That's looks like the cover of a magazine.
Blueberry, cherry, rhubarb pie. So, We're going to dig in and have our coffee, and we're glad that you were part of this, and we'll see you next time here at the cottage.